Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Ow. It's in my hand. So, who's our president? Not our president. The world president, because he's the United States president. I'm not an American, but I realize I'm smart enough to see that whatever goes on in American politics has more effect in my country than my own politicians. So I watch them more than I watch mine. What they do is going to change and impact the world, not just them, because they go out and have 20-year wars or whatever. They do destructive, horrible, crazy shit. And for the last 40 years that I've been alive, 40 plus years, it's never been anything good. And anything that they do directly affects what happens here more than an election. So, and not just that, but when you're growing up or when you're raising a kid and you're talking about, it's like, say, two mothers sitting down and they're talking about their kids, and the kids are sitting right there on the ground doing whatever, and the mothers are saying, "Oh, I'm so proud of my son, blah blah blah," and say it's not two mothers, it's a mother and her friend. Then the friend looks at her and says, "Well, you're proud of him?" And she'd be like, "Well, yeah." And then the friend could be like, "Well, he just shit his pants, and he's fucking playing with it, walking around. I think he's shaking hands with nobody over there." And then the mother could be like, "Well, yeah, I know, he could be president." Right? It used to be like honor student who was extracurricular activities in student council, doing this and that, really loved by people around him and seen as a leader in his group. Then you could say, well, he could be the president. But now it could be a 14-year-old kid shitting his pants on the fucking floor and wandering around aimlessly looking at walls like they're fucking people. Oh, he could be president. So it lowers the standards right across the board for the whole world too, because nobody looks and says, "Oh, he could be Prime Minister of Canada." You don't say that. You say he could be president, even if you're Canadian. I don't know about Brits. They might think maybe they do say he could be king, and he could be the queen, but no, because you can't. You got to be born into that shit. So maybe they say he could be the prime minister. I don't know, but we say he could be president, and that's because we watch Hollywood growing up and stuff. So U.S. politics is more the bar that you set it's the gold standard. It's supposed to be the gold standard. And it's not anymore, obviously. Fucking crackhead son and all this shit, and it doesn't matter. So it's just funny, I guess, that peculiar, better word. But the who's behind it? Who's the actual president? People are like, "Oh, Barack Obama's this and that." Well, I read scripture, Bibles, stuff of this nature, and I contemplate and think about God all the time, and what he thought, why he did things, why the balance of good and evil, why not just good, or all this other stuff, right? And things that I'm sure that everybody's thought about, like, why are people starving in Africa or whatever. Well, that's because we are cowards and our leaders are psychopaths. That's why there's people starving in Africa. It has nothing to do with God. God is pissed. Especially Africa, because it's full of resources. Right? They could easily be selling those diamonds and this and that, and their cobalts and their this and that, to make gardens. We make gardens in Los Angeles, in the desert. They could make them there just as easy. It's old, fertile ground. Just needs water. We can bring water to places nowadays. Imagine with technology. Anyway, so contemplating on the godly side of it, I think about the Antichrist quite a bit, and whom it could be. I think I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I think I hit the nail on the head, closer than I've ever before, I guess. See, I used to look around at leaders and people, and then it occurred to me that someone like Hillary Clinton would be a really good candidate because Jesus was a man, anti-Christ, so the opposite of Jesus should be a woman. But Jesus was his father was God. So the father of the Antichrist, or mother, should be, what would be father? A fallen angel. Just my thought. So before the flood, they could create abominations and do all kinds of things. The other thing I see really, really, really strongly prevalent is witchcraft, um, especially at our top levels, like all the Beyoncés and the Taylor Swifts and whatever. So, so all the Hollywood elite, and who do they schmooze and party with politicians for some reason nowadays. Um, so, and then you look at like Federline and Biden and all these men, and some women like Feinstein, um, that are like puppets. But then look at their wives. There's some evil fucking women surrounding all these dudes, and I noticed it with like the Johnny Depp shit and all this other stuff going on, and it seems like, and the Will Smith thing, all these dudes who, especially the more like Will Smith was a pretty solid guy back in the 90s. Like he was, I don't know about godly, but he was definitely like of conservative values and stuff like this, right? Like and now he's different. He's not that. and he's not noble. He has no pride in himself. He doesn't talk about like he wouldn't swear in his songs and stuff like this, and now he doesn't hold those values anymore. And then he's got this evil bitch beside him, and you could see she was controlling him because he was laughing at the jokes, and then looked at her, and then got mad. Where else did I see it? Oh, that old guy. His name's on the tip of my tongue. I can see his face, but he's a senator or whatever, and he keeps freezing up, and like just stroking out in the middle of press conferences and shit. He's like 80 fucking 5, and he's just fucking tweaks out, and and then some man came up to him. The woman beside him was saying, "Oh, Senator, blah blah, Senator, they're asking you this question." Nah, nah, nah. And then she turns around and says, "He's something to this dude." And the dude comes over, gets really close to him, and says something to the senator, blah blah blah. And he snaps right out of her. Buddy walks away. And he goes back into his. That was fishy as fuck to me. What the fuck did that guy say? She was doing the exact same thing and couldn't get his attention. Couldn't snap him out of it. Now I know that guy came over, he made eye contact, which can help, and I realized that, as a studier of health, at least to some extent. So, just in base knowledge I would say, yeah, making eye contact and getting close to somebody like that and, trying to snap them out of it is going to be more effective. That's what a doctor would do, I guess. But with all this funky witchcraft, I was watching this kind of struck home, watching this thing, and it was, I don't know how real it is. Zachary something. Can't remember. And he was a satanic wizard who turned Catholic. Now he's saved or whatever. So he was telling me, he does an interview and he tells you he was in the 70s doing this shit. But like these satanic cults were so big that in his little town of like 5,000 people, there was 2 big cults, and they were both over 100 people. Well over. Like his was 128 people or 29 people, and the other one, by the sounds of it, was the more mainstream. His was the more I can't think of the word that I'm looking for, but serious. So anyway, way back then. And then he moved out of his town and he was all worried about not being able to find another cult at college. And he went to like a mission day or whatever. I'm not saying that right. And there was a little booth set up. Satanist whatever. And he signed up for that, and he said that it was really just nothing. It was like just really surface, and they weren't really serious. They were just kind of making spells up, and they didn't really know what they were doing. So he called his cult back home, got in touch with a cult in the city that was bigger than the different cults. It was bigger than his, and ends up having like, he ended up being their wizard. This was interesting too, because it leads in, you know, how I'm always talking about veils, and how if you can just look at the problems around you and say, assess them and say, you know, like, where did these come from? So if it's like they just kind of popped out of fucking nowhere, and you didn't really do anything different, you've been still under God and still walking with Christ, and you know, like everything's, I don't understand, right? I don't know what's going on here. If you just keep walking, think of Jesus walking on water through a storm. Well, this is your walking on water moment. So you're not going to go walk over Lake Ontario. Well, I hope you do, but most of us aren't. But you can metaphorically walk on water through the storm by just saying, no, I'm not being stressed out by these problems. I'm not going to react to these problems. I'm just going to keep my walk. I'm just staying on the path. This isn't real. This is just a veil. It's just a test to make sure that I have faith enough in God to see that this is just Satan screwing with me. And then you walk right past it. All of a sudden, they just drop away. They're just veils. So they just go, drop down, and then everything's clear again. It's a really, really good test of faith. And when I prayed for faith, I found that those things happened a lot, because it strengthens your faith as long as you see it and react to it by not reacting to it. Yummy. So, anyhow, all these witch covenants way back then, that shit it hasn't stopped growing, obviously. It's prevalent throughout our whole fucking society now. It's in all the schools and universities and all that stuff, and it's all through Hollywood, and it's all through everywhere except for sports. It's the only thing. It's all through sports, but the athletes themselves can individually be different because they were gifted by God. So it's not like he can be replaced easily. You know, if whatever, one of these Christian athletes, I see them quite often that are saying, you know, love Jesus. God bless them. You can't just, it's not Johnny Depp. It's not, you can't just slander his career a bit or stop giving him gigs. Now they do that to them. They do stop giving them good fights, and they keep them from getting title fights. At the very least, you'll never be the champ right now. But we're fighting. So anyway, what do you think? Is Joe Biden and Federline and all these dudes, are they actually just puppets for these witches? Right now, is it Joe Biden's wife who's president? What do you think? I think it is. I'm going to leave the video there, nice and short. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Subscribe, like, and all that crazy stuff that YouTube hates. And start watching for cooler things. Saturday's coming fast, really fast. Pray, if you pray for me, pray for me. Just any little word to the King, let him know that I'm still fighting, that I'm still here. And any good words you could say for me would be wonderful. That's better than any subscriptions. It's better than any paychecks. It's better than any. I got a Patreon thing now. I'm going to start talking about that Patreon thing more and more. I'd like to get this boat into the water almost immediately. It needs a paint job, the mast installed, which is all us. That's all just labor. And then we got to get it put into the water, so towed across and put in with a crane. And then apparently we think it needs new sails. Not 100% sure on that. But, and then I'd like to fill it with, I don't know 100%. Maybe I can get a hold of Hawaiians on the other island before we take off and see what it is they could need. But if we could fill it with just cases of water and some base foods and things, and sail over there, unload, meet some people, find out what it is that they actually are in need of, sail back, and see what we can do. I don't know, but I can totally build a house, pour the foundations, build the entire, lay it all out. I could probably even do the blueprints. You'd have to get an engineer to okay them, I'm sure. And in the States, code's probably a little slight different, and I know that there'd be a lot more hurricane ratings there than here, and maybe earthquake, I don't know. But I know that that's kind of stuff changes things a little bit, but it's not much. It's not anything I haven't done. It's just things that I don't regularly do, like the cables and stuff going through. We don't do that shit in Canada. But anyhow, I would assume that anything we could do would be of help. So keep watching. Wish me luck. Thanks for your prayers. God bless you. Thanks for your view.